everyone, I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in historic downtown Kernersville, enjoying the hospitality of John Wisnett and his staff, where we invite you to come out and social distance yourself to your heart's desire as you walk around the beautiful tulips and daffodils in the garden. We'll mention it again later on in the program. Well, speaking of later on in the program, we'll have our infamous roundtable. We'll see what kind of controversies they get into. We'll also talk about dealing with domestic abuse, and we'll have some news for you about a COVID-19 resource center, courtesy of the good folks at Inmar. Speaking of which, that leads us to our opening topic and our very special guest who's been with us before. Lisa Marshall is Vice President and Chief Philanthropy Officer for Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks very much, Jim. Glad to be here.
I mentioned COVID-19, so let's start there. In general, what impact has the pandemic had on healthcare?
Yeah, the impact on the healthcare systems has been really very significant. In fact, the North Carolina Healthcare Association estimates that for the hospitals in North Carolina, the impact will be about a $3 billion decline in revenue just through the month of May.
And of course, a lot of elective surgeries. We're just now talking about some of the hospitals going back and doing that, but yeah, I understand that, and it's been a trying time and stressful time for everybody. Let me ask you about the philanthropy and alumni department specifically. In normal times, what was their mission, and now how has that mission changed during the pandemic?
Yeah, our mission has shifted a little bit, but I think it's very consistent with the role that we play anytime. And I think, first of all, our role is really to reach out to the community, establish relationships with the community, and make sure that they know what's going on at the medical center. And we do the same with our alumni. As an academic medical center, we're interested in having those relationships not only in the community that we're serving from a clinical perspective, but also all of the folks who did their medical training here, and they're all over the country and the world.
You and Justin Gomez sent me an email the other day and said something about a COVID-19 response fund. Did I get that right?
You did.
What is that about?
Yeah, our COVID-19 response fund was something that we set up immediately when the pandemic was beginning. And the goal was to really be able to subsidize some of the economic impact that we knew would have direct impact on our employees, as well as some of the services that we provide through the medical center. So we wanted to be sure that we would have the necessary PPE or protective equipment for our employees.
So that's where the funds would go from this fund, that you would help buy the things that are needed during these trying times.
The funds are supporting multiple things. The most important is the employees who are being impacted in terms of the number of hours that they can work because of the economics.
Got to keep them safe. We don't have to list the whole thing, but I'm just curious. Give us some examples of the things that we do need, that the folks on the front line do need. You mentioned PPE. Give me some examples of things that you need right now.
Yeah, you know, interestingly enough, we've had a lot of individuals and restaurants who have actually reached out to provide food. So food service is a great example. These folks are working long hours, and it's just been really important to be able to provide those kinds of services in the hospital. The personal protective equipment is absolutely crucial. In fact, in Winston-Salem, we have initiated the Mask the City campaign.
Right.
And that's a very important initiative where we're encouraging everyone to wear a mask when they go out.
And I'm assuming that, and we're going to give an email address in just a second, but I'm assuming the community can help and donate through this fund. Is that correct?
Yeah, the best way to get to the fund is to go right to the Wake Forest Baptist Health homepage. You will see a button that says how you can help. Click on that button, it will take you right into the fund and also give you the explanation of how the fund is being used.
That leads me into, we'll have on screen now, wakehealth.edu, and you can, let me say this, / is that how I say it? I'm not up on technology, it's a slash. There's a COVID-19 support, and I hope you'll do that. For the radio listening audience in WSJS, wakehealth.edu / COVID-19 support. And check that out, as Lisa suggested. And I know you're going to walk around the garden after this, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
All right. We'll be right back after this. All right, today we had intended to have as a guest for this particular segment our good friend David Mounts, Chairman and CEO of Inmar Intelligence. But so you'll know, if you're watching on Saturday or Sunday, we're actually taping this program on Wednesday, and David had a lot of things come up at the last minute, a lot of responsibilities, including responsibilities over something he's created that he's going to talk about in just a second, and it has to do with the COVID-19 Resource Center. So I want to find out about that, and I asked him if he would, at his office there at Inmar in Winston-Salem, if he would just give us some input about what's going on over there. And so let's watch this tape.
Jim, thank you. I'm here at the Inmar Innovation Lab, and I want to share some thoughts. As you know, we often do pro bono work in technology in the community, and I thought perhaps with so many businesses starting to think about how do I reopen, how do I get my business back on track, that this session could be a behavioral analytics and a marketing analytics pro bono exercise for all the businesses in our community to think about the best path back as we start to move forward in a path where we're now not just mitigating risk and keeping safe, but beginning to do both staying safe and beginning to try to return to a normal life. First of all, we've been through a period of very intense change in behavior. Most of us have not experienced that, and that's going to have long-lasting effects. In a lot of cases, we saw panic buying occur. This is a normal phenomenon in times of uncertainty and crisis, although I would say it was much more extreme this time than others. Essentially, everything in these stores was bought till the shelves were bare. We now need to think about how to get back into a normal routine, and your customers do as well, and they need your business's help. So you need to be ready to help them as they go from that panic buying to a more stable environment, and we're moving into what I would call, I want to return to normal, but I want to stay safe mode, and that's the next opportunity for so many of our customers. They are homeschooling, they're working from home, they're now doing a lot more cooking at home, and those types of activities have changed their life. Your business can help them with these new routines, but it requires you understanding what those new routines are and how to make the most benefit. So how do you do that? Well, first, it starts like anything else with a good plan. A good plan includes these components. You have to first say, what do they need now that's different than what they needed before? Second, you have to develop very quick tactics to respond to those needs and expect them to be agile and changing. The next is start with data. Talk to your customers, understand what their different needs are, what problems they have that are different today, and how you can adapt your business to meet those changes. Then analyze and detect these changes and start meeting those needs. In a lot of cases, it's going to be as simple as making sure your plan has a plan for them to conduct business with you and to feel safe doing it. If you can get those points across, you're going to have a head start at starting to move back to normal. So let's also remember this important thing. While we all are managing now and thinking about coming back to a normal, crisis isn't always about the negative impacts. These are also historically the periods where the largest innovations in history have taken place. You have a chance now to be an innovator and to think about how to adapt in this environment. We aren't through this crisis yet, but you don't have to go it alone. I also encourage you to reach out to the innovation ecosystem. A great place to do that is Venture Cafe. They're doing some wonderful content and talking about COVID and ways to adapt and respond and to have your business not just get through this tough time, but emerge stronger and better. And here's the thing, your customers in our community need you to find that solution for them. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I appreciate all you're doing for the community. And for folks at home, let me put up this information on screen. www.nmar.com/COVID-19 will take you there. Now, of course, the general website is nmar.com for Inmar Intelligence, but it's nmar.com/COVID-19. Please check that out. And again, our thanks to the good folks at Inmar and to David for all they're doing. We'll be right back after this. But first, speaking of a problem, abuse, domestic violence, all kinds of abuse, a big problem in this country and all over and locally. And we are fortunate to have someone with us who is doing a lot of work in this field to try to prevent it. And she's with us right now. She's been here before, and we're so glad to get back. Dr. Christine Murray, she's now Director of the Center for Youth, Family, and Community Partnerships at UNCG. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you so much.
What is this mission of, because you sent me an email, and the campaign is like Abuse is Never Okay campaign. Abuse is never okay. What's the mission of that?
Well, we've got three main messages through the Abuse is Never Okay campaign. The first one is to help people understand what abuse is. The second one is to help people understand what healthy relationships are. And then the third one is where people can go for help if they or somebody that they know and care about is impacted by abuse.
Right, and of course, you know, you're helping people with these resources, some who have already been victimized, but as I mentioned before, it's also a way to start preventing these things from happening. How many community partners are involved through this campaign?
Well, the two main lead organizations are the Healthy Relationships Initiative, which is through UNCG's Center for Youth, Family, and Community Partnerships, as well as the Guilford County Family Justice Center. But we're also working with a network of over 15 other community organizations, including law enforcement, as well as service organizations like Family Service of the Piedmont, to really bring this campaign out into the community.
And everybody's talking to each other, which is good because it's more coordinated. Give me an idea of some of the kinds of abuse that we're talking about that you'd be working on.
Well, we are intentionally focusing on a very diverse group of different types of abuse. So that includes, of course, domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and elder abuse. But it also includes less understood forms of abuse like human trafficking and stalking and bullying.
Okay. Now, what specific kinds of help and resources do you offer victims of abuse? And you don't, I mean, we could spend an hour on this, I'm sure, but just give me a couple examples. How can you help?
Sure. So we list some specific resources in Guilford County through the Never Okay campaign. The campaign is to raise awareness about those resources and some of the great resources in our community. Of course, if you're in immediate danger, call 911. But also to get connected to a real network of resources, go through the Guilford County Family Justice Center in Guilford County. And then also there are 24-hour crisis hotlines, such as through Family Service of the Piedmont and nationally the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Yeah, I'm going to put up some websites that have to do with the Guilford Family Justice Center in just a second, along with UNCG. But first, you have, I think you said that you were telling me before that you had a big event coming up in February. What's that all about?
Sure. So one of the next upcoming events that we're planning through this campaign, or related to the campaign, is the next Healthy Relationships Initiative Lived Experiences Professional Training. So this is a training for any professionals who work with families or individuals with relationship concerns in our community. And the goal will be to have a panel of speakers of people who've experienced abuse in their lives, and they will be sharing their experiences and insights on how professionals can best serve individuals who are affected by abuse.
Tough for some of the folks to come forward, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be very difficult to come forward, and definitely coming forward and sharing a story of personal abuse is not a prerequisite for healing, but it can very much be empowering and educational to hear from people who've really lived through those experiences.
All right, up on the screen, I want to do a couple things here. One is there's a phone number, area code 336-641-SAFE, S-A-F-E, and you can also visit neverokaygilford.org. I'm going to say this again for the radio listening audience, neverokaygilford.org, that's O-K-A-Y.org. And also for general information about our good folks at UNCG doing such great work and helping with these partnerships, uncg.edu is that website, www.uncg.edu. Christine, will you come back and let me know how it's going?
Sure, I'm always happy to come back and talk with you,
Thank
Jim.
you, my friend.
Thanks so much.
All right. Great work she's doing. We'll be right back. Triad Today, still coming to you from the Senior Botanical Garden, and what a beautiful setting. And we have a great guy to speak with right now, a good friend of the show who's here once again. And we welcome to Triad Today Christopher Cook, who's owner and founder of Alliance Insurance Services. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Before we get to the topic I want to ask you about, how has your team handled this pandemic stay-at-home crisis thing? I mean, are your offices still open? Are you doing business? Or?
Sure. Yeah, we've had to adjust a little bit. We're not doing face-to-face business as we've gotten used to and building relationships with handshakes and things of that nature. But all of our offices, all of our phone lines are open. Or people are working in the offices, just interacting a little bit differently. We've got a few folks who are able to transition and work from home, and we've got folks that are working in our locations as well.
Now, I'm looking ahead here to the time, and hopefully it's not going to be too much longer, where we're going to all be able to get out and do the things we want to do recreationally with boats and skis and jet skis and all this kind of stuff, and go on the motorcycle. Let me ask you, which is appropriate because I'm going to ask an insurance question, but I mean, if that's the case and you've got jet skis and stuff like that, what kind of insurance do I need for these kind of things?
It's really not much different than your car, but for me, as a skier, as somebody that loves to be on the water, liability and uninsured boaters are the most important coverages you can possibly have. It's not required by law to have boat insurance, so unfortunately you've got boats on the water who aren't insured, and heaven forbid they were to be the one to make a mistake. I want my customers to make sure they've got uninsured boaters protection.
So wait a minute, legally you're saying if I go out on the river or something like that and I've got the right insurance, that not everybody's required by law to have the same thing if they're...
Right, yeah. State law, federal law requires, because it's a state-funded road, that any registered road vehicle has to have insurance. Cars, motorcycles, etc. Boats do not, because they're on water and there's no regulation that requires you as a boat owner to have insurance.
Speaking of motorcycles, there are a lot of accidents, not necessarily caused by the people on the motorcycles. Where do we stand on that in terms of the safety issue, and any tips that you might give people?
Well, I think I read a social post the other day, and I think in relation to COVID and the situation we're in, traffic is way down in general, right?
Right.
And hopefully as the economy starts to recover and things start to go back, we're all going to be traveling more. As drivers, we need to be cognizant of everybody on the road, and motorcycles aren't sometimes that easy to see, but asking all the other drivers, not necessarily the cyclists, but all the other drivers, to be cognizant that motorcycles are getting ready to start running and being on the road, and let's pay attention to what's out there. But traffic in general is going to increase to what you may have been used to the past 6 to 8 weeks. So
Right.
you're going to have to be a little more careful about your driving in general.
Now, let's say that my wife and I each have a car, and you fix us up with a policy for car insurance, and then I go out and I buy a motorcycle. I say, I want to have fun on the motorcycle, which, you know me, that would never happen. But anyway, if I were a regular person, I would go and have fun. All right, so now, is this something that I have to call you and say, hey, do I start a whole new policy to be covered with this, or is it bundled up with what we have with the cars? How does that work?
Sure. Your insurance agent can help you with that, and different companies do it different ways. Some companies do add that to your automobile policies. Other insurance carriers in our state prefer you to write a separate contract. It can be done both ways, but your insurance agent can give you the best advice there.
And I guess the final thing I want to ask you about is, since there still is a stay-at-home order in effect, and there will be some degree of that for a while as we try to stay safe, and we're at home, I mean, we have some free time that we didn't used to have. Is this a good time to try to review the policies for their home and auto and all that stuff, as to make sure it's up to date, or what?
Yeah, I mean, we always suggest that at Alliance Insurance, that our customers are reviewing their policies on somewhat of a frequent basis, but things are changing. Our world is going to change. There will be a whole lot more stay-at-home work. In auto insurance, for instance, your auto insurance rate's based on how often you drive. So if you drive back and forth to work, that's a little higher premium than if you work from home.
Right.
So if your situation's changing, you need to review it with your agent, and get your policy up to date. You may be missing out on some discounts. You may have purchased a new boat or motorcycle that needs to
Right.
be added, or you may have
Right.
gotten rid of something that needs to come off.
Yeah. All right. Or sold, got rid of something. Yeah, I think my wife was talking about getting rid of something, and she looked at me at that point. All right. Now, up on screen is myallianceinsurance.com, or you can call 336-377-9003 for the radio audience. Again, that's myallianceinsurance.com. Christopher, you always give us good advice, and I appreciate you making the trip down here to the garden.
Thank you for the invitation. Good talking to you.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Triad Today, as we continue to come to you from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in downtown Kernersville. Hope you will visit it. Come out, social distance yourself all you like, and see the beautiful tulips and the daffodils and everything in bloom. SeniorBotanicalGarden.org. And once again, thanks to John Wisnett and his staff for letting us camp out here. Now to the round table. On my left, and to the left politically, Ogie Overman. He's usually to my right, but he's way off to the left today. Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster journalist. Way up above Ogie is, of course, B.J. Barnes, former sheriff of Guilford County, now mayor of Summerfield. And rounding out the group, Keith Granberry, who you may not know, buys all of the Clorox and Lysol for President Trump. Keith is also founder of the Help. You like that, Ogie?
That's it. I didn't like it.
No, Keith didn't like it. He is a founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, let's get to it. Last week, Governor Cooper extended the stay-at-home order till May 8th. He also put out this confusing three-phase plan for getting back the economy. Very confusing. And if he keeps moving the goalpost, a lot of small businesses are worried that they're going to go under if they haven't already. So now, given the fact that Attorney General Barr said he may sue states like ours for restricting business, guys, do you think struggling small businesses may start defying that order? Ogie.
Well, first of all, Jim, I thought after reading it, I thought the plan was pretty reasonable. The majority of states are opening after May 8th. I thought the goalposts keep moving because we're all making it up as we go along. We don't, as new data comes in and as more tests get made, it may have to be adjusted. As far as Barr suing states, several governors have already said they'll take him to court if that happens, tying it up. So that's pretty much saber rattling.
All right, BJ.
To get to your question, I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. I don't think Barr's going to do anything. The time constraints and everything, this thing hopefully will be over before they start doing anything in court or worrying about this at all.
Mr. Granberry.
I think that we got to look at people's lives. The reason that it's extended is because there are people who are not adhering to the rules. And if you don't adhere to the rules, you're going to have problems. And places like Atlanta, Georgia, where they're releasing these, you're only going to have more problems. And it's not going to end the pandemic if you don't adhere to the rules. So I think he did the right thing.
Well, people got to use their sense, good common sense. If they do that, we wouldn't need some of these restrictions anyway. Governor Cooper also announced that the public schools will be closed for the remainder of the year. Now, since students and teachers are now getting used to this online learning thing, guys, do you think this will now make obsolete the idea of making up snow days? Ogie.
You know, I hadn't thought about it, Jim, but now that you mention it, it kind of makes sense that if we can do online learning, which apparently we can, why bother with it?
BJ.
I agree. If you can refine it well enough that you wouldn't have to make up the snow days or whatever, and families could plan a lot better.
Mr. Granberry.
Well, I think that it's not going to make a huge difference, but I think one of the things about school is that students like to be together, but I don't think it's going to change much in terms of snow days.
All right, switching gears a little bit, right after the airline industry received billions of dollars in bailout money, most of the airlines have now said, well, we don't want to land in these various cities. There are like over 24 cities, including Charlotte, Hilton Head, things like that. Now, my question here is, they took the money, and now they're saying they don't want to land in some of these cities until the passenger count is up. Ogie, are you okay with what they're doing, or do you think they should give the money back?
Well, I don't blame them for not wanting to land and for, making people wear masks. But the way the stimulus was set up, they were eligible to do it, so they applied. Why not apply if you can get it?
Right. But BJ, wouldn't you assume they were going to continue service, though?
If the people's money is being used to pay for it, then they ought to be able to give the services that they're supposed to be giving, which means they should go to every stop.
Keith.
I think they should go to every stop, but I don't think every stop wants them to come. If you're a state where it's low coronavirus cases and you got people flying in from other places, why would you even want them to come in at this point? But I do think that they should be allowed to come in every state if you're getting dollars.
All right, didn't want to really get into politics, but a quick one on politics because this came out in a PPP poll. According to the latest polls, Democrat Cal Cunningham is leading Senator Tom Tillis by 7 points. My question is, will and can Cal Cunningham hang on to that kind of lead by November 3rd? Ogie.
I honestly think so, Jim. I think the political winds are blowing in our favor.
DJ.
I think that this is exactly like it was with the Clinton-Trump thing. Remember, Clinton was leading in the polls too. It's going to change. There's still plenty of time.
Keith, what does your crystal ball say?
As usual, BJ's wrong. I think that it's going to come down to whether or not people are going to be able to get out and vote. This year is totally different than any other year, and it's going to come down to whether or not people have a fear-based vote, and that's what's going to be the problem, because people are scared right now to get out and do anything with this virus around.
Chance to rebut is Clinton the president or is Trump the president?
Which
so
one
BJ can't be too wrong.
Which one would you want to be the president right now?
Oh, Lord. I'm just glad there's social distance back there. All right, Wake Forest University football coach Dave Clawson's donating 10% of his salary back to the athletic department to help it recover from the losses from the pandemic. You know, a lot of these big sports coaches are making $8, $9, $10, $12 million a year. Guys, very quickly, should all the other big-time coaches do the same thing that Clawson did?
I think he's setting a really good example, and he's not one of the higher paid multi-million-dollar coaches. So bravo for Coach Clawson.
BJ.
It's an empty gesture. He's going to take it as a tax return, and they're not doing anything anyway.
All right, Keith. That was nasty, BJ. Go ahead, Keith.
I think one of the things that needs to happen is many of these boosters that were giving money to the athletic department, they need to give back to the school. I don't think it needs to be the coaches.
Finally, guys, scientists in Belgium have discovered that when making cookies or cakes, it's actually healthier to use grease made from fly larvae rather than using butter. They say insect fat has more vitamins and protein. Guys, would you eat cookies made with fly grease? Ogie.
I think we would be shocked and stunned at what we're already eating in our foods, in our processed foods. So why not?
You might
why
do it.
not?
BJ.
Not intentionally.
Keith, would you eat cookies and cakes made with fly larvae?
I think some of BJ's answers are made from fly larvae.
Well, that's, oh man. All right, well, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this, and this is a true story. Last week, a little child came up to White House Dr. Anthony Fauci and said, Dr. Fauci, can the Easter Bunny get the coronavirus? And Dr. Fauci said to the child, no, Mr. President, bunnies can't get the virus. I don't know what that means. Anyway, for all of us here at Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.